everybody. I want to take a moment to recognize all the people who can't be here today because they are struggling with a chronic illness or a disability or caretaking for someone with a disability. Cool. Yeah, we make up 1 in 5 people in the United States, and yet we are often the last group of people who are going to be marginalized and persecuted by this president. The last person, the last people to be recognized. Trump has openly mocked disabled people. He has threatened to dismantle the Americans with Disabilities Act, Medicaid, and Obamacare, and he has shown support for increased militarization of police violence. If that happens, we will die, flat out. Lots of us, and quickly. So I'm asking activists, progressives, radicals, and anybody who is not immortal, why is discrimination against the chronically ill and disabled so often at the periphery of our concerns? Is it just that it's not just that it's a moral imperative. It's in everyone's self-interest. Anyone could become disabled at any time. I wonder, is it because we're not often visible? I'm queer and I have a severely limiting chronic illness, but when I have a day when I don't need this chair, I can pass as straight and able-bodied. I recognize that because I am lucky enough to live independently, I'm often the only person asking for events to be made accessible. Many of us are unseen because we live in fear of not being able to work or find housing if we are openly disabled, or of being accommodated in social circles, not being accommodated, and becoming a burden on our friends and our family. Many of us share another marginalized identity which is more readily perceived and discussed. Folks are more likely to be disabled or chronically ill if they're poor, LGBTQ, undocumented, indigenous, not Christian, an elder, not a cisgendered man or a person of color, homeless, underhoused. And having multiple marginalized identities makes it harder for us to organize. We can't always make it to meetings because of institutionalized segregation. Half of America's prison population has a disability. 20% of people with disabilities live in for-profit nursing homes that are little better than jails, where rape and physical and emotional abuse affects the overwhelming majority of people inside. Half of people who are killed by police are disabled. That means people of color with a disability, people like Alfredo Olango, Sandra Bland, and Eric Gardner will have even less of a chance of surviving under Trump. The Black Power movement of the 1960s recognized this critical link between people with disabilities and people of color. They recognized that race, like ability, is constructed by society to keep the ruling class of Donald Trumps in power. Imperialism and capitalism is at the root of these divisions, and only a full revolutionary response will dismantle it. Yeah! Yeah! Get up! Yeah! I urge us to reunite. Since the 1960s, we have low power. We have fractured into separate special interest groups. And I urge us to use disability as a lens to think about how we can make our movements more accessible to people from all backgrounds, and especially people with disabilities. Use your concept of access to think about how your language, your accessibility of your location, and the consequences of how you plan your campaign bring people in or bring people out, and how you relate to the people in your communities. Thank you so much. Now's the time for us to think about the intersections between our identities in order to move Trump and his capitalist machinery out of power. Thank you.